I want you to master how to properly thread and wind a bobbin and insert it on the Smarter by PFAFF Model 260c. So we're doing a whole series of videos that you'll be able to find links below this YouTube video and in the description. So definitely take a look at all the things that we are hoping that you'll learn and take away. I'm going to go ahead and pull out just a couple items as we get started from the accessories that come with it. Nice machine, comes with quite a few feet and goodies. And there's always a bobbin in the machine when you open it brand new. So I'm going to just snag the little empty bobbin out of here and wind it up for you. So as we take a look at thread can make a big difference on whether a sewing machine runs well or gives you fits. So quality thread does make a difference. And so you might want to go to a sewing machine store to buy thread. They always stock the better quality, and it is 50% of your seam, so let's not skimp when it comes to thread. Grandma's thread from her old sewing box, you've paid a lot for this machine. Definitely want to take good care of it. So first off, when you have a spool of thread that has kind of the little X's on it, I always recommend that you put it on the horizontal spool pin. Now, if you have a spool that is more of a stack thread, meaning the thread kind of goes right up the spool, they lay right next to each other, you'll want to go ahead and take out your vertical spool pin, put it here, and then let that spool spin off of here. The thread actually comes best off the back side. Now with a spool like this, it doesn't matter if the thread comes off the front or the back. It just needs to be with a spool cap that matches the size of spool you're working with. That's why they give you a small version too. So for this one, I need the big one. Make sure there's not a gap between the spool and the cap because your thread can get caught underneath it. Bobbins. These bobbins are specific for this machine, so this is not a place to mix and match. If you had an older machine with similar bobbins, there are machines that would have bobbins of this size, but if they're not exact, they're not for this machine. So these are considered a class 15 plastic bobbin or clear bobbin. Very easy to find. You can find them also at your local sewing machine stores and at your PFAFF store. So winding a bobbin will consist of following the dotted lines on the top of the machine. So the nice thing is these guides are all nice and open. So no matter where I go, if I miss one, I can always kind of come back and hook around. The next thing for winding a bobbin properly is this little pre-tensioner. You can kind of see it's spring loaded, and the picture here reminds me to come around it clockwise and back out towards the bobbin winder. Now the thread needs to click in there, and with that, that's what puts a nice tight wind of the thread onto the bobbin. Next, the little picture here shows threading the bobbin with the thread through from the inside out. I think I need to cut that. Here we go. Yes. And then we're going to hold the thread out the top of the bobbin. Okay, put the bobbin on, slide it over to the stopper. Now look what comes up on the screen. It says SP. That means that the bobbin winder is engaged. So when you step on the foot control, it isn't going to run the machine needle up and down. So just hold the thread straight up. That's what I'm doing here, not letting go. It's really slow, so let's speed that up. Good. I'm going to stop. You want to make sure that this thread, the tail, is cut even with the top of the bobbin. If you don't, that little guy can get in the way when the stitch is actually being formed, and that's not a good thing. So always make sure you cut that little guy off. I always say wind a full bobbin. There's always a time where you just get to the end and then you wish you had more thread. So I'm going to go ahead and wind this all the way. You'll also notice that as it gets a little bit closer to the end, this will stop spinning. So it is a setting that once it starts to kind of pause and no longer spin, take your foot off the foot control, cut your thread, slide it back. Now the machine's back to sewing, and when I step on the foot control, that needle is going to go up and down. Now if you take a look at the picture that's on the bobbin case door, you will notice that the bobbin needs to go into the machine with the thread coming off the left side. So it's actually the way this actually came up. You can hold it and then drop it right into this area. We'll do a video a little bit closer up on the bobbin, following the little arrows that are white, and there's a little cutter back here at the end. So I can cut the thread, replace the bobbin case door, and then that way we don't have to even bring the bobbin thread up. So that's really nice. So once we get the machine threaded, we'll be able to sew right away. So back up at the top, remember this little pre-tensioner? This is only for winding a bobbin. So undo it, and now you're following the little arrows that are solid color. And as I come right down through here, this is actually where the tension is. Let me give you a tip. Take your hands and make sure that that thread gets nice and deep into this area. This is also where people sometimes struggle with because they don't get their thread all the way down into the machine. So we're coming up, we're coming in on the right, down on the left, just like the little arrow shows. There's one guide at the top of or at the bottom of the base of the machine, and then one guide at the top of the needle. Now this actually has a needle threader, and there's actually a piece of tape still on the machine. There we go, protecting the needle threader. So the needle threader, once again, we'll do a video really close up so you can see how the thread just gets pulled right through the needle, and you don't have to have good eyesight for that. But let's just go ahead. I'm taking a piece of fabric, folding it in half. Always sew on 2 layers of fabric. Trust me, it always works out better. Lower the presser foot down onto the fabric. And by the way, if you don't, the machine will beep at you and not let you stitch accidentally with that foot up. So nice little safety. Now, if you're sewing and the stitches look the same on the front as they do on the back, you have done this correctly. You'll also notice that every time you stop, the needle stops up, or you can change it so the needle will stop in the fabric. And a quick tap of the toe is a half a stitch. You'll have to practice that. Just tap your toe at the top of your foot control and it will pop up, and you don't have to push this button every time you want to change the location of the needle. There's a little cutter off here to the side from back to front. It works beautifully. Stitches are awesome, so we know we've threaded it correctly, and we're ready to move on and show you the rest of this machine.